Ever feel like you're running on a treadmill set to meh, no matter what you try? Therapy, journaling, mindfulness, all that effort, and yet here you are, stuck. Frustrating, right? But here's the kicker. Even therapy, the golden standard, might be keeping you trapped in ways you didn't expect. Staying in these traps isn't just frustrating, it can quietly drain your sense of self and keep you from feeling real joy. In this video, we're not just diving into the therapy trap, we're also revisiting the other sneaky traps we talked about in the last video, like chasing outside approval and the relentless need to fix yourself. By the end of this video, you'll have a step-by-step plan to break free and take control of your emotional health. No unrealistic positivity required. In the last video, we uncovered the traps that keep so many of us stuck in that relentless emotional drizzle that defines dysthymia. First, there's the self-help rabbit hole, where endless books and courses promise transformation but leave you drowning in unrealistic expectations, making you feel like a failure when they don't work. Then there's toxic positivity, that pressure to just be happy, which dismisses your real emotions and leaves you wondering if you're broken for not being positive enough. Add to that the hustle hamster wheel, where you keep chasing achievements in the hope of feeling fulfilled, only to find that satisfaction is always out of reach. And finally, the dominant other trap, where your happiness becomes tied to external validation, leaving you waiting for someone else to give you permission to feel joy. These traps all have one thing in common. They pull you further away from your inner voice, making it harder to reconnect with yourself and break free from dysthymia. And today, we're diving deeper into another trap that's just as sneaky, the therapy trap, which can mirror these dynamics in unexpected ways. Let's break it down. Therapy trap. Why fixing dysthymia isn't as easy as it sounds. Treating dysthymia is a bit like trying to bathe a cat. Technically possible, but incredibly messy, frustrating, and you're probably going to walk away with a few scratches. But here's the thing. Therapy is powerful. It's one of the most effective tools we have for navigating dysthymia. Since it isn't a dramatic downpour, but more like a constant drizzle, you're not going to have those big, cinematic aha moments. No instant epiphanies here. It's a slow burn, and patience is part of the game. But here's the twist. Even therapy, the golden standard for emotional healing, can backfire if you're not careful. How? It can easily turn into another version of the dominant other trap, the exact dynamic that got you into this mess in the first place. Instead of finding your own internal source of joy, you end up outsourcing it to your therapist. Picture this. You finally decide to see a therapist, and it feels like you've hired a professional life coach / miracle worker. This is it, you think. Someone who actually understands me and is going to fix me. Suddenly, your therapist becomes the Simon Cowell of your emotional progress. Every session feels like a mini talent show where you're waiting for their approval. You do the journaling, you practice the mindfulness exercises, and at the end, you're like, okay, doc, where's my gold star? But here's the thing. This dynamic plays right into dysthymia's hands. Dysthymia loves outside validation. Biologically, your brain's reward system, driven by dopamine, lights up when you receive approval from others. It's a survival mechanism that once helped us fit into social groups. But modern life, and especially therapy when misunderstood, can accidentally reinforce this. If your brain learns that progress only counts when someone else approves it, you're caught in the same trap all over again. What's missing? Self-empowerment, the ability to create that happiness for yourself. That internal voice that says, hey, I'm proud of myself just for showing up today. That's enough. The good news? Therapy can absolutely help you build that voice, but only if you stop seeing your therapist as the magical fixer and start seeing them as a guide. Because here's the truth. Your therapist isn't there to hand you happiness on a silver platter. They're there to teach you how to build it from scratch, even on days when the drizzle feels like it'll never let up. And yes, that might feel frustratingly slow, but it's also the key to breaking free from the cycle for good. I know it's exhausting to try so hard and still feel stuck. That's why these tips are about taking the pressure off yourself. How to actually feel something again. Let's face it, if dysthymia had a tagline, it'd be something like, close enough. You're not miserable, but you're definitely not thriving either. So how do you break out of this emotional stalemate? Surprisingly, the answer isn't in overhauling your entire life. It's in learning to appreciate the small stuff again. Let's rewire those flat circuits with a few practical and slightly weird tricks. Tip number 1. Do something totally useless. Start by picking an activity that serves no purpose other than fun, like stacking snack boxes into a Jenga tower or decorating cookies with an irresponsible amount of frosting. The goal here, to do something purely because you want to, not because it's productive or self-improving. Your brain's going to yell, "Is this what we're doing now? Wasting time like professional time wasters?" But guess what? That's just your dysthymia talking. Politely tell it to take a hike. By leaning into fun, pointless activities, you're teaching your brain that joy doesn't always have to come with a side of accomplishment. Neuroscience backs this up. Engaging in playful, low-stakes activities releases dopamine, the feel-good chemical, without triggering the pressure of achievement. Weirdly enough, this can be a game changer. Doing something useless might sound silly, but it reminds your brain how to enjoy the moment. And that's where feeling alive starts. Trap. But this isn't productive. Right on cue, your brain will throw out the "but I could be achieving something" excuse. Listen, you're not a machine. Fun isn't frivolous. It's necessary. Think of it like rebooting your computer after it's been lagging all day. If you don't let your brain take a break from achievement mode, it'll never remember how to just enjoy stuff. Trust me, permission to have fun is strangely powerful. Tip number 2. Set micro goals that are just for you. Big goals can be overwhelming, so let's start small. Set a micro goal so tiny it's practically impossible to fail. This taps into what psychologists call behavioral activation, taking small, intentional actions to spark positive emotions. Organize a single drawer, draw a stick figure that makes you laugh, or Google, "what do baby platypuses look like?" I'll tell you, adorable. No one else needs to know. It's all about teaching your brain that you can feel good without applause or an audience. When you celebrate these tiny wins privately, you are rewiring your brain to find satisfaction in the process, not the approval. Over time, these little sparks add up to a fire. Every micro goal and guilt-free moment chips away at that invisible wall, bringing you closer to feeling like yourself again. Tip number 3. Schedule guilt-free me time. Yes, really. Let's tackle guilt head-on. Set aside 10 guilt-free minutes a day to do whatever you want. No multitasking, no productivity allowed. This might feel unnatural at first because guilt is like the uninvited guest at every dysthymia party. But here's the thing, guilt is just a bad habit. The more you recognize it and refuse to let it run the show, the more space you create for joy. Think of it as practice. Every time you catch yourself feeling guilty for resting, tell that voice, "Thanks for your input, but I'm busy enjoying myself." When you carve out time for guilt-free rest, you're actually helping your brain shift from sympathetic mode, aka fight or flight, into parasympathetic mode, aka rest and digest. This shift reduces stress hormones like cortisol and gives your nervous system a much-needed break. It's not just self-care, it's brain care. Tip number 4. Let go of the fix-it mindset. This is a big one. The urge to fix yourself is one of the sneakiest traps dysthymia sets. You might think, what if you didn't have to fix yourself? What if it's about learning to live alongside dysthymia without letting it take the wheel? Letting go of that guilt gremlin is key. You don't need to fix yourself every moment. Sometimes the best step is to simply let yourself be. This is where neuroplasticity comes in, your brain's ability to rewire itself. By letting go of the constant urge to fix yourself, you create space for your brain to focus on building new, healthier patterns. Instead of reinforcing the cycle of guilt and perfectionism, you're teaching your brain to prioritize acceptance and small, meaningful actions. Instead of chasing some mythical cure, focus on making small, manageable changes that make today just a bit better. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Imagine feeling proud, not because you checked off every box, but because you finally gave yourself the space to feel alive again. That's what we're aiming for. Payoff: the power of finding satisfaction in the small stuff. So, is this a miracle fix? Nope. If you've been trained to rely on others for validation, this is going to feel awkward at first. But over time, these tiny changes can help you start feeling proud of things, even if no one else is watching. Think of it as teaching your brain to give you a mini high five just for existing. Reality check: people may not get it, and that's okay. Now, here's the part no one tells you. When you start prioritizing yourself, some people might not understand. If you've always been the reliable friend or the one who's always there for others, they might question why you're suddenly doing things just for you. But here's the secret: it's okay if they don't get it. Putting yourself first isn't selfish, it's necessary. You are allowed to disappoint others if it means finally taking care of yourself. And those who truly care about you, they'll adapt. This isn't just about boundaries, it's about recalibrating your social dynamics. Studies show that when people prioritize their well-being, their relationships often improve, even if there's initial resistance. Why? Because when you're more centered and fulfilled, you bring a better version of yourself into every interaction. Bonus tip: stop relying on positive thinking. Remember how we said positive thinking doesn't work? Here's why. Slapping good vibes only onto dysthymia is like adding whipped cream to an empty cup. It looks nice, but it doesn't fill you up. Real fulfillment comes from those meaningful, private moments of joy you create for yourself. And yes, it takes practice, but the reward is worth it. Positive thinking often glosses over real struggles, which can lead to a form of cognitive dissonance. Your brain feels the disconnect between your forced optimism and your actual experience. Instead, focusing on small, genuine moments of joy creates authentic emotional shifts. This grounds your well-being in reality, not wishful thinking. Living with dysthymia is like trying to run on a treadmill set to moderate melancholy. It doesn't mean you can't live a fulfilling life. It just means you'll have to put in a bit more effort to find and hold on to the good moments. Remember, it's okay to take things slow, to focus on yourself, and to embrace whatever small joys you can find. You don't need anyone's permission to feel joy. The only person you're waiting on is you. And you've been ready for this all along. Picture this: a day where you wake up and realize the treadmill has slowed and you're finally walking at your own pace toward moments that matter to you. Start small, stay kind to yourself, and know that every little step forward counts. Think of these steps as planting seeds. You won't see a garden tomorrow, but one day, that spark of life will bloom, and it'll be yours to nurture and enjoy. What's one tiny, guilt-free thing you can do today that's just for you? Share it in the comments. It might spark an idea for someone else. And if this video resonated, don't miss part 1. It'll help connect the dots for your journey. Thanks for watching.